Japan up close.
I think it's its efficiency, the discipline, and the mindfulness of others. That's what impresses me the most. And I find it quite unique. I think it's a combination of all of that, because the food is fantastic, but you can't get that around the world. So that's one thing. The scenery is breathtaking, especially it changes so many times per year. So you can come here and say that you've seen Japan, come here in a different month, and feels like a different country. So the scenery is definitely breathtaking, but I think it's the people, the infrastructure, the way that they approach everything that they do. There's a certain culture to everything that they do that's just, you can't help but be in awe when you see it, because they're so efficient at it. They're really the world leaders in many things like infrastructure, engineering, transport especially. We are probably about 50 years behind Japan, and I don't mean that to be in a bad way. It's just the way the developing country is. We lack that infrastructure that's needed to take us to the next level. I think that's pretty much, in my opinion, the biggest hurdle that we face at the moment. So to say it's inadequate, I guess, is probably a fair description of it right now. But the government's working very, very hard to be able to bring it up to a level. So the growing pains are going to be very painful, because there's so much to get through to be able to get through to the other side. We are growing at such a rapid rate, not just in economy, but obviously in population. There's just, to be able to keep up with that, we're going to be able to we're going to have to double down. So we lack it. We have to change our mindset as much as we have to change the infrastructure, because we do live in a car-centric culture, and that's got to change. So our public transportation system really has to be not just rehabilitated, but actually designed with more purpose from the ground up. I would say they're very aware of it, because we've always leaned on Japan for infrastructure, advice, technology transfer, and expertise. China's taking a little bit of they're creeping up there in the news because of the funding, but I think we still rely on the Japanese technology more than anyone else. So they are aware of it. We do appreciate it. The Japanese culture and the expertise that they bring in is embraced by the Filipinos. So they already have a very big head start there, because anything Japanese is loved by the Philippines. We're currently doing a subway, which is being done by the Japanese company. And that's probably the biggest one that we need. Anything to do with railway will definitely help, because I think that Japan's at the pinnacle of technology when it comes to rail design, especially for our region. They understand it. They've been doing it since 1927. I've seen they've shown me some access to some of the subway development that they do here, and it's mind-boggling. I mean, I'm literally in awe every time I see what they've done and the engineering challenges that they face. So that's definitely where we need the most cooperation, and I think that's definitely where the country will benefit the most. What I saw was basically the Olympic housing for the athletes, some of the stadiums, but from afar. I mean, we were given a bird's eye view from the building, and we were able to see the Olympic Stadium from the Shibuya Scramble, various different venues that they showed us. But once again, from afar, we didn't get to inspect the actual stadiums. But the fact that they had, I think, 45 venues for this, spread over 10 prefectures, was very impressive for me, because obviously it's a logistical nightmare to be able to have everyone descend in one city as compact, and well, it's not compact, but it's very congested as Tokyo. So that was very impressive to see. I was also particularly impressed with the philosophy behind it, because when it's one thing to have the engineering prowess or the engineering capabilities, that's already very impressive, but this is something that we can learn. This is something that you can go to school for. This is something you can teach any culture, any nationality. But to have that inbred culture of excellence that's you're born with a philosophy that the Olympic Games is designed for everyone to be at their best, It's not just the athletes, it's everyone that participates, from the people who mop the floors, to the people who build the venues, to the people who organize the transport. You're getting the best of the best competing for excellence in a game. So you see that culture come through in everything they do, and it's very, very impressive. To also see the kind of planning that they do from a way back is also something that I think the whole world can learn from. The simulations that they do in transport, everything that they do to try to understand how things are going to move and where the friction is and how to solve it, is something that I think the Japanese excel at. So they're able to take what the world has already done and just do it better, more efficient, smaller in some cases if that's what's called for. But I think having an event as large as the Olympics, to be able to showcase that to the world, I think is the best possible stage I think Japan can be on to be able to show what they're capable of. Well, I guess if there's any curse to success or being efficient, it's the expectations that the world now has in Japan. So it's not about doing the best job possible. We're expecting even more. You cannot just equal what the best in the world has already done. We're expecting you to improve on that. So Japan's always been known to get either maybe the best ideas in the world and just do it more efficiently, whether it's in electronics, whether it's in transport. So now you have a global platform like the Olympic Games condensed into just a short period of time. This is just an incredibly concentrated period of time where you can showcase what Japan is all about. So in that regard, the expectations are going to be high, the pressure is going to be high, but I don't think anyone has any doubt that Japan will deliver. Because if anything I've learned from Japan is that they usually like to underpromise a little bit when it comes to progress. They'd rather just tell you it's going to be like this and then over-deliver. So we have full faith that that will happen with the Olympics. So we're looking at I'm looking at perhaps maybe a legacy of the soft legacy that we talk about, or that the Japanese government talk about, I think is even perhaps more important than the hard legacies that we once used to have. Because this is the way of the future. A city as developed as Tokyo doesn't really require an engineering marvel anymore to put it on the map. They've got enough of that. You can just throw a stone, it'll hit something that's just world class already. But I think the new trend nowadays is tolerance, diversity, and I think they're showcasing this very well in the Olympics. So the expectations now will be to be able to host 10 million visitors in such a short period of time and have that done seamlessly, have it done in a way where people all feel the equality of Japan, the legendary accessibility of Japan. So when you're talking about Paralympics or our disabled brothers and sisters who have challenges around the world, we're expecting new standards there so that the very best of Tokyo can be accessible to all. This is something I think that will probably make a bigger impact than anything that they could literally build through concrete, steel, and wood.
Japan up close.